Hey friends, it's Allie Edwards and I am working on December in Project Life for 2019. When I finish this up, this will wrap up 2019, which is super exciting to me. I loved doing monthly this year. I'm going to do monthly again. As you guys know, I'm a little bit behind. I had surgery in January and that kind of moved the, I don't even know what you say about it. It delayed some things. So I had lots of good rest and recovery, and so now I am here with December. So November ended on this big enlarged photo. I'm doing another enlarged photo. This is actually a top-down shot from the camera, the angle that you guys are seeing, and I blew it up, and I think that that's a perfectly fun way. So in case you don't know, in December I do a project called December Daily. So I have already documented one story per day from December 1st through December 25th. And I don't feel the need whatsoever to replicate or repeat any of those stories. One or two of these photos might be similar to what they were before. But for the most part, I looked for ones that weren't necessarily December or Christmas related. Let me show you here how it's going. And I'm using the December Stories by the Month kit. So this is what I had in my stash. So I'm gonna do an insert like this that will have, that photo I know is in December Daily because it was like a Christmas morning photo, but then I'm gonna use, this year was blank, I'm gonna put something in there. I've got a weekend adventure card because Erin and I went away for the new year, so I'm gonna document that on there. And then I'm gonna end the album with this 9x12, 3x4 pocket page that will have photos on the front and the back. I have my first series of photos here on the front, and then I'm going to do another series on the back with putting in some of these journal cards saying goodbye, saying hello, stuff like that that can go on the back. I also really want to do a shaker pocket, and a shaker pocket is basically where you take a pocket and you fill it with stuff. And I have lots of star embellishments here, so I was just going to put a bunch of stars into one of these, and then I will stitch it closed across the top. Pretty simple though. I think I'm just gonna handwrite stuff this time. Like I'll handwrite onto the journaling cards as I go. But like I said, overall pretty simple. Super happy to wrap it up. I think once I get to this part, I'm really ready to be done, especially for December, just simply because of how much documenting I'm already doing in December. So I am going to get to work here and I'll narrate it for you and you'll see the process. All right, so process for this one was fairly simple. I started off with some chipboard on that enlarged photo. I kind of went back and forth between did I want the heart or just the December stories, and I ended up with just the December stories. And then I did start to fill in the 3x4s with some of the photos and cards just initially. I like doing that because it helps me remember or see things kind of more globally, I guess. I don't even know. Hopefully that makes sense. They don't always end up in exactly the same spot, but at least sticking things in there, which sometimes I pull out, sometimes I move around, just gives me a starting place. And I think that works or has worked really well for me. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Sometimes I do need to trim them down a little bit, especially the photos that I print out myself. Sometimes the 3x4s are a little bit too big. So one of the things that you're going to see a lot this time is I used almost all of the journaling cards from the December 2019 Stories by the Month kit. That kit obviously is not available anymore, but we do have a digital version that you can grab that's on the site under the digital Stories by the Month category. We released those digitally one year, and then the following year they come out in physical products, just a FYI. So doing hand journaling on this one, writing directly onto the cards, also adding in a little few chipboard pieces here and there as I go along. I really loved the sticker sheet, the word phrase sticker sheet from this one too. And one thing that you might notice on here that might be a little bit different from what you have seen in the past is that I'm working on the outside of the page protectors. So a lot of times I'm doing things inside the page protectors, but I'm also just trying to loosen up things in general. And if it works to put it on the outside of the page protector, I feel like that's just fine. And so that is what you see me doing on this one with a few of these things. So then I had the This Year Was card, and so I thought a little bit about what I wanted to add on there. And I think I just basically said it was a wonderful, mixture of good stuff and challenging things, which are most years. This year for me, it was more health challenges, especially towards the end of the year. I was dealing with some issues related to periods and ovaries and all that kind of good stuff. So luckily everything turned out okay. I had a hysterectomy in January and we're just moving forward now. Weekend adventure card there. I went ahead and just am following the line, the kind of, or the diagonal line there of the designs and writing in my journaling, talking about how Aaron and I went to the coast for the week between Christmas and New Year's, which was kind of a challenging time health-wise in terms of I was in that spot where you just don't know what's happening. You just don't know what's going to happen next. So it was nice to have a getaway for that time, kind of a distraction. But that's also a lot of what I was, having fear or dealing with worry about related to that. So then I moved over to the other page. I went back and forth a whole bunch with moving these things around. They moved the 3x4 cards on this side specifically moved around quite a few times. I think I said in the beginning here that I knew that I wanted to use one of these pockets as a quote-unquote shaker pocket, which is essentially where you're putting a whole bunch of smaller embellishments or embellishments into a pocket, and then you can use something like a fuse tool, or you can use a sewing machine to stitch it closed. So this is my collection of stars that I'm pulling out of this little box right here, and I specifically had a lot of really small ones, these like sequin ones and little wood veneer stars. So I tried to put a whole bunch of them in there, and then I took it over to my sewing machine, which is what I'm doing right now, and went ahead and stitched that up. Then I brought it back over to the table, cut off the extra strings, and for stitching for me with the sewing machine, I'm a super fan of just messy, like I don't really care. After I did the one, I still have red in my sewing machine from December, then the one pocket, the 3x4 pocket, then I decided, you know what, I'm going to put some of these same stars inside the journaling card and then that photo of me and Simon there. So then I took that over to the sewing machine and stitched that as well. Kind of a fun way. I don't think I've ever done that before where it wasn't a full see-through pocket, but where I actually just did put embellishments inside the pocket and then stitched it closed on top of a journal card. So I really like how that one turned out, and I really like the texture of the stitching on the transparent page or the plastic pages too. I think I'm just kind of ready for a little bit of evolution out of the pockets. I still want to do stuff in the pockets because I like the organization and I like the structure that it provides. And I think probably what you'll see from me is that some projects I'm keeping most things in the pockets, and it's just an easy way to get into the flow of storytelling. And then in other projects, I'll probably going to do other things that are outside of the page protectors even more. But I like having the variety. I like that I get to have that kind of choice, and I like that my storytelling can evolve as I go along, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And as many of you know, that's something that I'm a big fan of, working towards all or nothing thinking. Moving things around again, moving a couple of cards around there, trimming the one down on myself so it fit a little bit better. Wrote in or filled in a little bit of additional story on two cards there. The one that says the story, and then the one down below was about meeting up with a friend, and the other one was probably just about how we had a really nice and slow and cozy December, which is my favorite kind of December to have. And just it felt very different also, just because the distance between Thanksgiving and December starting was really short this year, and I feel like that impacted a lot of the ways that I experienced the month. And so I reference that in my journaling a little bit there as well. I'm also using some word phrase stickers that were part of our December daily collection last year. Those are those green, red, and white ones over on the side. Adding those on to the page protectors in a couple places. Often when I'm adding word phrase stickers like that, I tend to like to add 3. Again, I'm just responding to the journal cards from that kit. There's lots of times where I work with kits where I don't use everything in the kit in 1 month, but this one really
worked well for me. You know, and it's kind of up to you and the way that you like to tell your own stories. But this one, I just felt like every single card I had something to say, and that was really, really cool as well. So I wrote a little bit about looking back on the past year. What were some of the main things in the past year? And then I also wrote something similar on this, like saying hello and saying goodbye card too, and kind of talking about saying goodbye to illness and those kinds of things. So I love how this one turned out. Super happy with it. I will be having another video up later this week that shows you a full look through of my whole 2019 album. I've got that filmed and I'll share it in a couple days as well. The last thing I did here was use a stamp from the Gratitude Story Kit that then went inside the Avery Index tab there for my insert. All right, thanks to you guys so much, and we'll see you here again soon.